setting up for our beginning practice today. It's in all levels. It's going to be a variation on support for the spine, the hips, the chest, the whole body. But you'll want to have a ramp for your spine. So you'll have a blanket roll, then a bolster on top, then a blanket across behind you, and you're not sitting on it. You're laying on it. So you're going to sit in front of the bolster. Indeed, you're sitting bones. Okay, I want you to first have a buckled belt, place it overhead around your hips. So it's pretty low, it just drops down. And before you slide it around your feet, some of you, well, all of us hopefully have a wall space nearby, but some will have their feet kind of touching the wall, which is fine. Mine is just not oriented that way in this moment, so I'm not going to reset my things, but you could reset so your feet touch to the wall. But this one doesn't, I don't know if it makes as much of a intrigue in the bones to have the feet touching on this one. Guide some blocks under the connectivity of your thigh and the branch down towards the space below the knee. Just kind of feel how this contour, your bones contour around the props, right? And versus like, you're using the props to support your bones. Okay, take the belt buckled up over the feet. I know the blocks could wobble. You'll get settled in 20 minutes in this one. Okay, slide the buckle so it's close in reach in case you have to get out. Okay, tighten up. You can tell it comes from an experience teaching a class, and we all had to quickly get out of our belts because of an alarm. So had that experience, have the buckle nearby. Okay, so I want you to get a feel when you are in the lowering back phase that the feet are kind of clutching to each other. So the inner thighs, the lymph in this adductor area, the groins is going to activate. So I push my feet together and then I rise kind of up with my ribs, although it's kind of, you can't see that kind of motion when you lower back from this position. And then I'm going to guide the block so it feels good. It doesn't matter if they're touching my lower leg bones. I have them kind of slanted around the thicker part of my thigh. So I can kind of feel the blend of, well, it's a little feeling of muscle, but it really is feeling the bones and the connective tissue kind of starting to slide into more of a stretched state, kind of between calm and stretch. Okay. Add a sandbag. You can add it across the ribs. If you don't want to use sand, no problem. You can place the sand so it's from the heart to the belly if it just feels better today like that. And you could also, if you had two sandbags, you could put one on each upper thigh across. Okay? If you don't feel as if any of those suggestions are worthy of the moment, pass. Okay, open out the chest by the arms touching the ground. And shifting the focus into the breathing cycle. The body is centering through the spine and the hips. And the inhalation through the nose. And relax on the out breath. And simply noting the experience of a cycle of breath. Kind of merging with the sensation also opening up the chest. It might mean that your arms slide down a little closer by your sides. And you might end up sliding them farther out and just see if moving them on the ground is useful or maybe even stretching them back overhead. The focus is breathing with the experience, whether it's you're grounded or there's movement with the arms. You know, the abdominals are relaxed, so the diaphragm can actually do its job, and also it can strengthen. That's interesting with restorative, right? You can relax the abdominals and still work with resistance with things like sandbags or poses that we're in to create tone in the core of the body. And that can help us be more posturally supportive internally when we have tone. Think of that, right? For the organs, spinal column. And now feel where there is some awareness of the belt, right? It might be mostly around the feet. It may have shifted away from being felt around the hips, but it does help start to loosen up in that area with the resistance of the belt. It also holds you together. Okay, so kind of still trace that spatial outline of the use of kind of the support of the belt before we unbuckle. Just kind of feel where it supports the back of the pelvis. Okay, now if your arms are overhead, you're gonna bring the arms down, slide the arms back into the sides, and then reaching for where you think your buckle is, unbuckle. And as you slide the belt, it can still be on your mat. You don't have to put it away, but just slide it so it's not pulling around your legs. And when you move the knees to point up, get a feeling of, if you have the sand, again, it helps you stay kind of grounded and in tune with the releasing back kind of method here. Okay, so I find what's interesting in this variation for my hip, I slide the blocks a little bit out to the side, and then I place them so they're firm on the ground, but they're beyond my mat, so they're kind of bumpers. Okay, now slide the sand away and take a ball. You can have one that's smaller than, you know, these are 7-inch balls that most of us are trying to work with. But you could use one that's a little smaller too. So you can kind of play around. Probably not much bigger, right? You don't want one of those Theraballs or whatever. Okay, so place the ball to the upper outer left thigh. And when you lift up the right foot, likely the body kind of slides a little itty bit. So feel the chest open, like try to get the ribs to stay with this openness. Okay, that's one option. And then I let my left foot slide down a little bit. Then I lift the right foot, and then I swing that right ankle over to the left knee. My hip flexor, right, I can feel some grasp at the top of my thigh to make the link. But what I'm suggesting is to just do less when you're getting somewhere. Just see what you can do minimally so there's less wear and tear and you still have the alignment. And you can always back up. But feel how the left foot is, right? See if you can let your body weight lean into the side of the left foot and lean into the ball and reach for the right knee. Okay, now if you feel like your left foot's sliding far down towards the base of your mat, like mine is, I'm going to nudge the ball besides my hip a little bit higher in, and then slide my foot a little bit up, and then hold the knee, the right knee. The left knee's too far away now. And feel the tilt, so you're now closer to the side of that left foot. We all have to kind of conform to what gives us some postural kind of support here. Some of us will be closer to the side of the foot on the bottom foot. Some will be kind of pitched and tilting a little bit. But you could use this block, or you could guide it so it's also under that left leg as well. That's okay. It's not about, you know, that you want to use the least props. I don't think that's it at all. You want to let the bones conform to the prop so that you can find the proper support now in your right hip. Okay, so we're going to be doing both the stretch across and then a massage into it with the ball. So take a few more moments, reach the right arm back, maybe besides your head, or have the right arm down by the side. And just feeling where that connection now is into the right upper outer leg. Okay, let's keep it pure and simple. It's a leg. It's connecting to my hip. And I feel it kind of stopping around it stops around the glute where you're going to feel it in the glutes. You know, just kind of sense where that stretch is at the top part of the leg, into the hip. Probably doesn't go into the back that much, but I imagine there's some support in your lower back. Okay, now if your arm is back overhead, lower it down. And you're going to reach your right hand for the ball. Okay. I want you to try to keep the connection about the same with the leg crossed to the left, the right foot crossed to the left knee. So you'll shift the knees back in center and then place the ball. So now it's on the right upper outer thigh. I'm actually going to nudge the ball underneath, so I'm going to kind of lean into it and basically put it under to my right glute. You can stay on your back, but it is sort of here, right? So it's not on the thigh or the greater trochanter. I'm almost sitting on the ball, and then I'm going to massage into the glute just with the ball, right? So it's not as if I'm going to push the ball around with my hand, but no, I'm going to actually lay on the ball with my right buttock and go back and forth. So now my left foot is, bottom of the foot is down, pushing, and I'm going back and forth. So I still have the same crossover with the ankle. If it's a bit tricky for your balance or your muscles, right, in your core to kind of hold you up, you do have to use the legs quite a bit, especially the standing leg. Right? The left leg is the standing leg. It truly is. Even though you're not standing upright, it's your standing leg for this one. So feel that you go back and forth. Feel if you can get a spot on that right gluteal area that could use a little bit of circulation. It shouldn't hurt unless you have a tennis ball. Then it would probably hurt. Or you have like a foam roller you're using. It might be difficult. So I want it to be soft movement across the connective tissue. You can tilt back and forth, right? So you're kind of tilting. You can go side to side, like you're a little bit of a hip back and forth. But now when you start to shift right into the midline, uncross the right foot from the left knee, and then you're going to move the left buttock to the floor, guide the ball that's under your right rear, a little bit off to the side. So now it's stuck to you. Make sure you're still on your bolster, left ankle to right knee. Cross the ankle on the right knee, and then you'll tilt over to the right side. Okay. Right hand holds the left knee, and this, I'm actually starting to like the block on this one as well as the ball. I'm getting kind of prop dependent. I'm a prop dependent person. So holding that knee and draw the leg across. I guess it means I have to purchase a lot of props, huh? All right, so when you cross the leg over to the right, feel where that left thigh, feel it stretching. And it probably feels more of a stretch because you were just doing that ball work on the right buttock, and that leg had to kind of stay as a standing leg. So it's going to add some interesting sensation. Yeah, you're not trying to go back and forth on this one. You're not trying to massage. You're holding firm with the right hand on the left knee. Left arm can be back besides your head, and it can also be on the floor. Yeah. Feel what can let go. Sensing the circulation through your breath. Just let the left arm relax down by now. And feel that you have two variations with the right hand clutching, right? It can be trying to maneuver the leg across to the right or a little bit towards your upper body. And sometimes just holding the knee is enough. Just hold it and just see what intuitively you might move it towards, what direction. Maybe you don't have a direction. Holding it is plenty. Okay, so what I hope is that you feel something at the top of that left thigh around into the hip and the glute. You feel some kind of prying, right? It's trying to loosen up that area and get some more blood flow there. That's really what it's doing. It's improving circulation there. That's all I really know. All right. So now I'm going to let go of the knee and take the ball. And when you move the ball now to the left buttock, right, you're going to be basically kind of lifting up to be on it. So if you haven't done this variation before, just play with it. Kind of feel like, okay, bring my knees back up center, my right bottom foot is down, it's my standing foot. And then I push into my right foot and I lift up and then I kind of let the ball roll to that left glute medius. So it's kind of center upper part of that left buttock. And then I just go back and forth because you just stretched it, right? You were just pulling on the knee and prying it across. So this is a nice follow-up for circulation. It's weight into the ball and movement. So it's massage. Yeah, and maybe the less pressure you force, it could be better. You might find you make little circular motions. If this is something you would never do on your own time, this is good, right? To practice something different with circulation and massage. And, you know, this is one where I like to sometimes kick the leg up that the ball is connected to and see if I can move the pelvis back and forth, side to side. So I have control in the deep pelvic floor muscles. So it goes a long ways to do this kind of, I think, odd stuff. We're odd ducks here doing this. Okay, kind of connecting the leg that makes it a little easier, less kind of gripping. But you might be surprised, especially if you're a challenged hip flexor-y. This doesn't really bother my attachment here as much as some other things do. So I find this kind of curious. You might not agree at all. Okay, so take a few more moments and you can always just put both feet down so they're both standing and go back and forth too. This might be better for you. Less pressure in the knee and energy at holding. You just go back and forth on one buttock. Okay. So now they're both going to kind of converge to be working together. So we'll slide the ball out, stop. Place it between the knees as far as you can easily reach it to that spot. And then feel your heels press down, the foot lift up. So my heel is down, I'm flexing my foot or my feet. Okay. Lower back down. Alternate flexing. So the toes are up. You can't see this probably very well. Okay. And lower down. Now when you flex, I want you to not squeeze the ball. So flex, and then when you lower the feet down, squeeze. Okay, and alternate that. Toes are up, and then feet are flat. So alternate flexing. It's not really extension on the foot down because you don't do any more arching than natural with the bolster. Take a few more of these. And if they're easy peasy, that's good, right? So if you find, oh, it's not that challenging, you can do this. And so next time you squeeze the ball, I want you to feel the feet turn in, like pigeon toes. So turn in the feet, squeeze the ball, and feel the charge into the legs, right? You're kind of leg charging. All right, now relax the grip and open up with the chest, stretch the arms out. Inhale, arms are a little bit off the floor. Exhale, arms relax down, squeeze the ball. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, arms lift off the floor so they hover. And then exhale, keep the chest open. Okay. Now reach the hands to your legs. Hopefully the hands can touch onto some legs. And then when you squeeze the ball, I want you to feel that you squeeze with all your might on this one. And when you lift up your head, hold the legs, slide the feet forward so it's an easier approach to come up to sitting. Okay, take a few moments, slide the feet a little farther forward. See if you can reach your hands back on the floor so your palms are down and you squeeze the ball. Okay. All right, now relax the grip and let's move, turn back and take the belt off of your mat and let's grasp our bolster. Now we're coming up to sitting. And I want you to turn the bolster horizontal. And I think likely we should get our blankets behind the bolster. Get the blankets behind the bolster to protect it. Make some quarter folds and stack them up so they sort of are like, you know, maybe about the height of your bolster. Okay, so you're going to sit on the bolster. And we'll take it first so that we have a block that is flat, meaning the lowest setting, in front of you, and your right foot is on top of it. Now you can move your block farther away, you can move it closer. I think having a distance with the block so that you feel like it takes a little bit of energy to lift up the spine, which is a long topic. Not that it's a long spine, but what is that about? So just put a sandbag on the left thigh. I find that this is a little intense for me with I'm always guarding my knees and they've been doing pretty good. So more guarding has been feeling good, a little more support. So I put a ball under my left knee, but you might be good without it. And then take your other block and I want you to reach the block on the floor to the left side. So your right foot is on a block and your other block is under your hands or hand, if you want to go one-handed on this one. And it's straight from my left knee. And I'm going to slide it over to about 10, 11 o'clock on the left-hand side. So when you're reaching, you got your sand on the left side, same leg, the direction you're going. I want you to try to let that right knee release outwards. Flex the right foot. You were just doing things like flexing and dropping the foot a little bit. So try to get a little flexing. Don't have to overdo it. Just feeling the energy in the inner leg probably. Okay, now what we're doing it, I just can relax a little bit more. But this is good stuff. So, okay, leave the block there if you can. If you need to pull it in because you're scared you're going to lose it, that's fine. But I want you to bring the hands to your waist or down closer to your hip bones, could be farther down, wherever it's easy to hold your sides. And then come back in center and kind of lift up. Think about the front of the spine, which is, you know, behind the heart. Okay, there's not much extra room in there for other things to make up. Although I like to make up some things. But feel where the spine motion is, right? Where you have the natural arches, okay, the natural curves in the spine. So I want you to feel that you can turn left. We'll do one more of those rotations. This is really mild, isn't it? So I'm turning and I'm visualizing that my navel's going left. If I look down, it might not be, but I'm visualizing it's pivoting. I'm turning left. So I want you to kind of bow towards that block again. So you're leaning down towards the block. Flex the right foot. Okay, so the spine has a reach. Now, if I put my hands on the block, I kind of droop a bit with my spine. So I'm going to go back up. And now I want you to take the ball out if you can. If you can't, you can do the same exercise without moving your foot or the ball. Just want you to know. You could do the same twist without moving any of these things. So if you're not comfortable with that, don't do it. But for some of us, we'll move the ball and let the left leg lower down and then cross the right leg because that leg has been juiced a bit. It's been kind of, your hip has been juiced to get towards this position. It's been up here and it's been stretching a little bit. So cross the right leg over the left and then start to make your attempt at the twist. So the right hand goes back to the blanket, left elbow to that right thigh, natural curve of the spine, lift the heart. Inhale. Exhale, find that twist to the right. So feel the left arm energetically push into that right leg. Okay, so we try to keep it so the arm is reaching. Now, if you're not taking the leg crossover like this, you don't have to at all. You're still going to get 100% and still be you'll still find some realization here without. So you could have your foot on the block and hold the knee and take the turn. Okay, so I like trying both, even though it seems in my head that maybe my foot on the ground is mastering it, but right, gentle is the new advance. So find what works for you. Feel the right arm reaching back and maybe get a hold of the sandbag handle if you have a handle on your sandbag. This can be interesting for the momentum in the breathing muscles, not so much the shoulder joint, because if you peek down, it's going forward, but with the breathing, it kind of cinches up the corridor of the waist here. Take a few more moments with this turn. Don't overdo it. You know, be kind of easy going. Maybe you turn your head left to right. Maybe you tilt your ear to your shoulder. And let the practice be nourishing. Any moment you're in it. Breathing. Okay, now feeling that you shift back forward. If you have your foot across, I want you to put it onto the block or the floor. The foot is on the ground, bring it back forward. And now we're going to take away the grip on the sand and I want you to put it off to the side and move the right leg straight back behind you. So the left thigh is still over the bolster and the right leg is reaching back in pigeon pose. I know you think the left leg's pigeon pose, but they're both pigeon posing. And imposing a pigeon here. Placing blocks under the forearms or not. You could go down to the floor and you might like that better. Okay. Yeah, I like both, but what I like about my arms on something is that I can work on those baby back bends, right? That even though this is not quite a locust pose, I can still feel it's kind of a baby locust pose. What would that be called? So I still have this lumbar support, the width of the lower back. And I move the belly, the abdominals, relax with the breath. Now, who's to say exhale is not relaxing in some way in this position, even though it's the challenging way to work the abdominals, because they'll drop with gravity right now. They're just going to drop. So your work on the exhale is to move them back in and towards the back. So pulling up, pulling inwards and up. Let a few more cycles of breath go and enjoy the circulation in the left hip. Okay, now instead of pushing off of the arch and the spine, I want you to feel how that, well, clearly the left leg is a little handicapped to push off of because it's bending. You're not on a standing left foot, right? You're on a bent leg. So when you come back, kind of dome the back. So if your hands are on the ground or on the blocks, you're going to come back with that back dome, so more of a cat spine. And then when you lift up, let the weight lean into the left hip, swing the right leg forward, kind of curl them in, and then bring the left foot on top of a block. And as you cross the path into the second side, the right leg, I like to use a ball underneath the knee. If you don't have a ball, you could put like a blanket under the knee. That would work out fine too. And you don't have to use your sand on the initiating part of this one. So if you find that sand on the thigh plus a ball under the leg just doesn't seem very wise for you for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel right, then you don't use it. It's always an option. These are just adding things that could be useful, using let the bones conform to the props. So I have this gentle motion of my arch, kind of my arching heart and lift. I think that cue works good for me, arching heart. And then when I move and turn my ribs to the right, I've got my block over there already. So I'm going to, the reason I'm tilting down to about 1 or 2 o'clock with my block on the right side is to start to kind of juice this left groins, hip, right? So when I take the twist, it's pretty warmed up. So no need to strain and put your block across the room and strain holding it, but use the body weight to kind of put some weight into the hands. And breathing. Yeah, if you're not so sure, in fact, what's kind of interesting is we did this sort of angle when we were on our back after cobbler's pose. We did some of this work there. It just looks like we're doing something different, but we're sitting in it. So feeling where the bones on the upper body are tilting down. Breathing slow. Okay, now when you do start to come, think that you're aiming to the right, even if you're looking at a screen or what have you, I want you to still aim towards the block on the right side. Okay, now reach your left hand to your left side of your lower spine. So the palm could be touching the back, palm in. It could be palm open. Okay. And now when I come up, I'm going to take the twist. So my right hand to the left knee, and I'm turning left hand back. I'll eventually get my sandbag handle, but for now I'm curious about this lift. So let's say you're going to go for the foot on the other side. You'll move your ball, and you'll place your foot on the other side. But here, I think the challenge though is finding this lower abdominal connection to the twist. So I'm going kind of backwards. I'm going back to more elementary practice sometimes just to feel that I can get some circulation in my lower abdominals. I mean, this looks like, well, she's doing more better pose or something, but I don't think I'm as connected in my lower abdominals here. It just looks different, I guess. So it's up to you. If you feel the right side of your lower back, you kind of like the weave of the back this way. I can see why this feels pretty strength. It's a good strengthening one for my upper body. But most of us want to integrate our core motion to be upright. So you could reach around, get that sandbag handle to the left hand and use that rotation. Yeah, that works nice when the foot is on the ground, doesn't it? It's a little more mid to lower abdominal momentum. Yeah, don't overdo it, right? You don't want to twist yourself in half here. Okay, so find what allows you to breathe too. So if you're breathing, okay, we're doing all right. We're not holding the breath till the pose is over. Oh, people do that, so. You never would, but people do. Okay, so feeling where the spine is in rotation. Okay, relax the grip on the sandbag handle. And then when you come back to front, rotate, right? It's going out of rotation. Slide the sand off, and then let that left leg reach back. You got blankets behind you under the leg, so you're pretty well padded, I think. And you know that lift for the right leg is important. You're having the support. So when you lower down onto your arms, it could be blocked. Some of us are going to be fine without the blocks. Doesn't mean that we're advanced. We just prefer that circulation in the hip. Yeah, they're both good. If you can get to the lower one, you still might try the upper one with the blocks and just kind of feel how that action is in your lower abdominals. This could also include your posterior core, right? Your back spaces. So simply feel where the weight is into that right leg. If it's too much on your knee, you feel like, I like the stretch, but it's just achy. You can always use like a ball under the right buttock, and it'll get you a little bit higher. And you don't need to like sit further into the ball, but it'll perch you up higher. This feels like, not that I don't have a knee, that doesn't make me not feel I have a knee, but it does take the pressure out of the crease into that joint. And I actually like the feeling in my lower abdominals, even though my right seat is up, it's giving me more stretch there. So, play around. This is practice. It's not serious. Okay. So give a few more moments, however you're supported. Props, no props. Okay. Feel the breath in that lower body, right? So feeling, I mean, where else are you going to feel your breath, right? You're not going to feel it necessarily in your legs. It's in the container that moves. Okay, now when you come out, we're going to be letting this right side get the full length and side sage. And it's been bending, so it'll feel nice. So let's take a position where we move, if we have a ball, out, and slide the left leg forward. And then I want you to have your ball over towards the left side, a block behind you, unless you know you never use it for side sage, then don't worry about that. You'll uncross. You might have to do a little bit of a leg tantrum or supplement, right, which is in massage, just tapping onto the flesh, find a little bit of blood flow around the knees up to the back of the legs. Okay, kind of brisk flushing. And then, or maybe it's scratching. Okay, then you're going to come down in front of the bolster, and it should be all warmed up for you. Okay, now taking the blankets and push them a little bit away from the bolster. So you got a whole space for an arm. If you look at your arm, it's not that big. That'll fill in that space. But I think you want a little bit of space away from just the arm width so your neck can find that nice contour. And if you use sand, carefully move it over to the left or by your left knee. That's on the left side of the mat, huh? Okay, so here we go. We've got this right side just had the movement of the knee out, so we're going to move it back. And a ball on the inside of the right leg. And then you'll lean into the bolster and take a sandbag. Maybe it takes a stop on the bolster. And you could lower your head down first. The tendency for me is to have my sand on before I get my neck settled, but feeling where it could be across the hip today, probably. It could go lengthwise, it could go horizontal. You can use your left foot to kind of nudge the ball on the inside of that right leg so it feels like it's supporting. And you can also do this pose with the knees together in fetal position. Okay, so you could do other things that aren't suggesting quite as much range of motion. So reach the right arm overhead. Maybe the block is there for you. Okay, so the hand could be on the block. Remember, the block's got a few different settings. So I think it's helpful to use the highest setting on this one, even if you had the flexibility, right? The shoulder joint doesn't need to get more worn out, okay? It's not gonna help us. So feel a way that you can get some range of motion. If this feels like you're worn out, then pass on the arm gesture and let it either be down resting on the bolster or on your side. Okay? And be in the moment with that. For now, it feels okay, that's fine, but if it doesn't, don't overdo it. And then rest the sides. Feel both the left side with the circulation of the breath and closing your eyes to center. We can now get our breath into the intercostals, right? The muscles between the ribs. If you like to kind of straighten the lower leg, the one that's connected to the ball, if you're really close to the wall, it might be kind of against you, but it might also be helpful. So by chance, you might be able to touch the wall with your foot and improve the circulation around the knee. So stretching through the side, ribs, feeling the belly in slow motion. Really it's feeling the ribs in slow motion. When we switch sides, let your sand just fall off on its own. And take a brief horizontal chest opener between the two sides. So likely since your left leg is bending, you can't just kind of flop back. You have to bring both legs closer to each other. And then you might find, oh, you can actually kind of roll into your back and trust it. But likely most of us will have to come up on our elbows before we get to the full chest opener. So you can tell that we're used to doing this one with the block under our pelvis. This seems like quite an intense chest opener without the block under your rear. So you can always slide a block in underneath if it feels too much, or certainly bend the knees. Don't hesitate on knee bending here. It doesn't need to be legs straight down. Okay, although some of us can find that, but I'm good with knees resting together or walking them closer, my feet closer in. Okay, no gasping with the breath. See if you can track a couple breaths before you go to the second side. Okay, know that your lumbars are really good at this stuff, but the thoracics aren't really impressed by trying to arch. So you're really using the base of the spine to get this lift. So that's why I find it interesting when we've been using the block for a while, that this is kind of what we're trying to get back towards. Okay, now Move your hips to the left and see how you can naturally create this movement. So I kind of roll from my ribs. And we use our legs so much to get around. Even when we're in restorative, we're trying to use them a lot. So try to move from the ribs here, roll to the right. Lift up a tiny bit so you can get your awareness to your side position and adjust things that you need to. Take a ball on the inside of that left leg and maybe a sandbag. Not on the inside of the leg, but it probably wouldn't hurt to have it there. But add it on top of that hip and lean down so you're resting into your blankets. Okay, good. Yeah, arm could be actually connected down to the sandbag. And you might find the hand on the bolster feels pretty good too. Now, how you lower your head down, the natural curve of the upper spine is pretty curious. So I find that if I can relax my head, I'm good. Okay, if I'm trying to kind of clutch my neck muscles, it's a little challenging on my breathing. So rest your head. And feel the movement quality. Just of your breathing cycle. Feel the weight into the hips. You can probably surrender more than you are into the bones. And if it's the floor is too hard, then maybe when you set up, you put a couple mats or an extra towel under your mat, other things you can do so you can really get into the benefit of, receive the benefit of circulation by truly letting go. Those of us that have the left arm reaching, right, we might like that kind of healing effect in the circulation in the arms. And kind of that, clearly it's prying open, but the selection committee on this one doesn't always work, right? So you might go, oh, this is the part of the arm I want to feel, but when I lift my arm this way, there's part of the rotator cuff that hurts. So it's probably important if it hurts somewhere and you're not sure, but you still want to try to get a stretch somewhere, then back off, right? Especially shoulders, because they can be in rehab forever, so don't overdo it. Feel the body weight into the hip. Okay, now feeling where your weight is onto the bolster. And let's kind of keep moving into the bolster here. We're going to keep going right because we're on the right hip, I hope. And as you slide the sand over, I want you to keep the momentum to that right thigh. So lean to the right hip, turn, and I hope you got a wall space nearby. But what we'll try for is we're going to move the ball and you're going to turn. So if this hurts your hands to push into your bolster, have your hands on the floor to come around to your knees. Some of us are, it's a little bit of vulnerable tissues there. So you can have your hands on the floor and pivot, okay? What I want you to do is actually take an upward facing dog. So you're gonna keep moving around so the hands are palms down. If this hurts your wrists, you can bring your elbows on the blankets, okay? But you're feeling the front of the rim of the pelvis, the hip, the thigh lid stretching. If you've got a wall space, push into it. You can actually push back enough that the knees are a little bit off the ground, so you're not grinding the knees at all. There's no pressure on the knees necessary for this, for the front of the thighs to stretch. Okay, give it a few moments. I like the elbows down version because I'm allowing the spine just to kind of ease into the sensation. you know, versus pushing. This feels good for moments, but this is helpful too. Okay, my knees are trying to get a little bit of lift. Okay, now let's all lower the knees down. Okay, we'll slide the hands back, and I want you to come up by pushing down to table pose, so hands and knees. And let's scoot a little forward and get our block. So we're gonna need a block on each side of the mat. And I want you to have the support so the bolster gets pushed back to the wall. We'll use it soon. But first things first, let's take a step into this one. So we'll place our blocks on the mat itself. So they're not gonna slide away. Step the right foot into a lunge and lift up the back knee so it's hovering over the ground. It's not like just a tad up. It might have to be a little higher for you to manage the muscles. Muscle management, here we go. Feel how the back foot pushes. So now I want you to guide yourself a little higher. So you'll scoot the right foot back, move the blocks with it too. And then let the left heel lean up at the wall so it's what the foot's kind of made to do to support. So I'm in a lunge, and it's not the stretchiest part of movement for my leg, but I'm putting more weight into the bones, to the femur. Okay. So feel how the step back into the wall is. And then I want you to work for a moment on the heel is still up. It's going to stay up at the wall. It's a little bit up. It might be, if you're lucky, you got a little baseboard. It's kind of a perfect placement for a heel. And then I want you to bring the right arm back, just one arm. Okay, left hand stays on the block. And I'm going to turn the waist to the right and bring the right arm up to the sky. Breathe. Okay, now bring the right arm around to your back again so the palm is open, and then turn the waist down so the abdominals are really on the inside of the right thigh. I guess they can't really go anywhere else, huh? And then I want you to take a step. So you're going to work a little balance and step the left foot to the right foot. Place both hands on the blocks. Take the blocks forward so you have a little bit deeper of a reach for your legs and the back muscles on the other side of the blankies. And yeah, look if one foot's farther forward than the other. That's kind of normal for that step, is the one foot's going to be farther back. But I want you to make sure that they look like they're next to each other with some space between them. And then when you're reaching through your back, like your sitting bones are aiming towards the wall behind you, kind of like a downward dog, huh? Take a wider step with your feet on the edges of your mat, so they're right on the edge. Feet are parallel, and see if you can let the hips center back. Yes, you can usually let your brain move a little farther down between the arms on this one with the feet wider, but we're all different on that. But certainly we got circulation to our face now, huh? To our brain. Okay, now bend the knees, of course, and step the feet about hips distance apart. Take the blocks back on the sides of the feet, and now you're going to step the right foot back and go slow with it. So sometimes aiming to the wall, you end up hitting it, but you're going to step back, and on this side, we're going to make it a little bit more cozy. We're going to actually do, we'll get on the calves in a moment, but I want you to feel the heel is up at the wall, and you're in that lunge. So my right knee is way up off the ground. I'm nowhere near the ground. Okay, bring the weight towards that left upper leg. Really feel the bones movement. So the knee is just above the ankle. It's not farther over. And then see if you can start to reach the back heel to the floor. Whew, into the calf. Just feel that for a moment. Feel the calf on that back leg. Okay, now lift the heel on the back leg up against the base of the wall. Have your right hand on the block, and you're going to reach your left arm. You can go out to the side, or you can swing the left arm back and take that rotation. I find my cycle of circulation in my ribs goes back and then swings open. That works really good for me. If I just kind of squat out to the side, I don't know, I just don't care for the movement pattern choreographically, but it's up to you. Some people are just kind of gasping at trying to get this one. So anything they can do to stay from falling, we'll try. Reach the left hand to your back as your foot slides out. Okay. Turn the waist center, step the right foot forward, left hand on the block, and then step the left foot back and reach the heel towards the base. So we got to get this calf one time too. The right leg can be bending. You could also try to straighten it a little bit, but it's likely good to keep a little bend so you can get the heat into the back of the thigh and stretch back through that left heel. Breathing. Yeah, if your heel doesn't touch the ground, it's okay. If you feel that's I don't know if feeling makes you heal, but you know, you still can feel that circulation in the calf. Okay, now you can tell the calves can use this. We got to get upside down soon, huh? Okay, now come back to the left knee on the ground and stretch back. You can bring the hip blocks to the sides, and I want you to take a moment where you alternate forward and back. So you can put a blanket under your knees, but your hands are going to be out wide on the mat. You're going to alternate hip flexor, stretching, chest gently lifting, and then reach the hips towards the heels. Maneuver the spine round a little bit through the back. Inhale, lift the chest. It really does take time to get mobility in these two parts, right, front and back. So in observation, I'm always curious to see how this motion matures in bodies that practice. So let it be small movements, right? You don't have to reach as far back as possible with your hips. And of course, you don't have to reach your head all the way up to towards the ceiling. You can just feel how the spine is working with the arm resistance, right? Okay, come back to table. Slide the left knee towards the right hand and then swing around so you're sitting. And you'll take your blanket. Yeah, the extra one you have, let's toss it off to the side near the wall, okay? Because you might use it at your last pose, but I want you to pull your blanket in. Let's make it flat. Let's make it in a small, so it's not a big fold. And you're going to bring your bolster today at the wall. It's flat, and it's right up against the wall, all the way, okay? Now bring your feet on top and scoot to the bolster and bring your feet up onto the wall. That blanket's way under my blades. Okay. So blanket is not under the blades. It's not under my shoulders. It's just under my head. But it doesn't feel like it's helping me a lot. It's just padding. Okay. Cranial padding. So step the feet apart so that you can feel that alternating movement of the tailbone with the breath. So the hands could rest on the floor. I like to kind of move my elbows out to the side. I kind of feel puppet-like with this. It's actually challenging for my collarbone to do this kind of movement, to have my elbows out, hands towards my hips. It's tricky. It doesn't hurt, but it's not a flexibility I naturally have at all. So I think it's useful to try it. So you're going to work with just the arching and lengthening of tailbone with breath. Give it just a few more. You can't see it. You can't get closer to the screen and see it. You won't be able to see it. But when you arch, you can feel the tailbone kind of press into the floor. And then when you hopefully exhale, it slides a little bit down. So it's just that movement, little nutation of the base of the spine. Okay. Feet at the wall, I know makes this feel like it's more cozy, I think, in the tail area. But you end up sliding a lot when you lift up the pelvis. So I find that this doesn't work great for me on my feet stay at the wall, but some of you might. You're different lengths than me, so I think maybe if someone's taller, it might work better. So you can always try this lift and lower with your feet at the wall. So lower the feet to the bolster for some of us. Some of us can keep here. And you're going to place the ball between the knees. And I want you to just gently push into the ball. Squeeze it. Okay? Hands down besides the hips. Make a mild pressure into the ball and then push down to your feet. Lift the hips up and stretch the arms back. Maybe. If they don't feel good going overhead, don't do it. You don't have to. But when you lower down, I want you to purposely relax any squeeze on the ball so the buttocks, that flesh doesn't feel like it's clenching. Okay? So alternate a few more times, lifting the hips up, stretching the front of the spine. It's a good one to work both parts of the front and the back space. Bridge pose is excellent. Okay, so next time we come up, we're going to actually get our way towards committing for a bridge pose. So when you lower down, you're going to bring the knees into the chest and take the ball out and place a block so that you've got, you can either have the two blocks side by side under the back of the pelvis, but I kind of like this version. So I lift up my hips, I place my two blocks side by side, and then right in together, and I make sure they're kind of in the same, side by side, one's not higher than the other. And then I lower down onto the blocks. And what would be nice is if I could actually stretch my feet into the wall and keep this openness through the hips, okay? Even if it feels kind of funny on the rear muscles, like below the spine, if that feels like it's contouring towards each other and you feel too close to the wall, I'd rather have you feel too close than too far away. I want to feel your resistance pushing into the wall. Okay. Here's an option if you have your knees bending and that's better for you. And some of us are going to decide we want to bring our legs up in the air. We just cannot wait another moment to get our legs up. More legs up is better than less legs up, so it's up to you. But it's hard to get this hip flexor reach other ways than this kind of way. Okay, arms down by the sides. You can add sand across the thigh lids. You can go without sand and just be with your feet pushing. And just feeling that natural arch in the psoas. So interesting to feel the connectivity at the front of the lumbar spine, the attachment to our walking muscle and to our psoas. Just feel the movement of the breath. Now let the arms be relaxed. So feeling the upper extremities into the arm bones. And in the knees, slide the feet. So the bottoms of the feet are pressing the contour of the bolster. And then when you motion, right, you can still feel tailbone, little arch, tailbone, a little motion under. Keep it simple. Just push a little bit so that you can nudge the blocks out, just a little bit. Lower the spine and the rear to the ground. And then push the bolster with your foot over to the right side of your mat, grasp onto anything that's over there in the way, like ball and sand and stuff, and then lower the right leg. Now, if you're too close to the wall, it's probably not going to matter more than you think, because guess what? We're going to reach the left thigh over onto the bolster. So the lower leg bones are going to bend. Okay, you're going to want to create that curve. So the more curve that you're working on or contour, the better the response, the rebound into your bones. So work with this, especially if it's kind of comfortable for you to take it. Use the ball to the sacrum area, so it's an anchor, and then take a sandbag, and I would be careful when you pull these things around. Just keep it close to your body, don't overdo it, and then just nudge the sand so it's on the side if you're using it at all. No requirement. Sandbags are great for traction, clearly for weight bearing, and for some of us doesn't feel like it's a big workout with the sand on the bones, but if it hurts you, then don't do it. But feel what's the proper position that it'll stay. Some days it stays better than others on the leg. And then stretch the left arm open. Turn your head to the left. And now we kind of combine, some of the poses we've done earlier, the side sage, the seated pose. It really combines into this one. They're both in it. Now, can you find both poses in this one? Feel the chest and its gentle reach. Just feel where there's any extra areas in that upper back that can contour, can kind of flow into the twist. It just could be a recognition of an area that's kind of sleepy. It doesn't mean that you have to do anything there, but just recognize areas that kind of flinch in the upper back and the bones. And see if you can keep that option to open up and kind of spiral out of the chest. I don't usually think about spiraling out of the chest, but right this second I could. The head rolls back center, slide the sand away, and then come to the second side by slow down here. Knee bends in, right foot steps, so that I shift the pelvis center, and then I place the bolster over to the left side. Try to take it easy with all the prop moves. Left leg down, right leg swings over, fall. Now, if you need more blanket, yeah, this one could probably use a little more height, huh? Second side, I just start to notice, this seems a little low. But none of us want to have more rounded necks. So if you're working with the blanket lower, that's going to be ideal for our neck, our tech necks. Okay, so sand on the right thigh, that seems to conform better on this leg for whatever reason. The bones are going to take it. And so take a moment where the arm spreads open on the right side and your head rolls towards the arm. And feel the movement of the torso. Gentle movement of breath. It's moving, even though it feels like you're still. There's movement internally. I know it may even be more intriguing than when you're walking around, talking, moving, just to find this experience circulating through the pumping of breath movement, the expansion. Yeah, feeling that spiral of the chest to the right. The neck doesn't have to turn, right? So if you don't feel safe with that, especially one side to the next, I mean, you probably sleep more on one side than the next. And there's all kinds of things, right, that you could study about yourself, experience of posture. So what feels like a good habit might be in practice. But hopefully you've had a little pull of movement in your lower back, like a little bit of prying and reaching when this pose happens. So when I slide the ball out, I guess I roll it out. And then I slide the sand off. Care for it. You don't want to shock the sacrum because it's already being kind of pulled downwards here. It's not going upwards. So when I roll to the left, kind of hug into the heart and come up, and we'll take a bolster next to our wall right at the base. We've already done right at the base before. Pull your blankie in. This one would be good to have a quarter fold. You could do it flat. I don't think you want it any higher. No more puffy blankets on this one. But when you sit up on the bolster, you got your sand nearby, and I'm going to have my other blanket and kind of pull this in. So I think I might use this because I don't have another sandbag right now for my belly. So when I tilt, I'm going to get on the side of the short end of my bolster and roll down to your shoulder and let the legs try to get up. Now, if this is a tricky hamstring event for you, please don't feel like you've got to have your bolster next to the wall. If it's too much on the hamstring, you just push the bolster a little bit back and you go back with it. And it might just be so much easier for you. So that's okay. It's about getting upside down, not about getting a hamstrung. Okay. Okay. So sand on the soles of the feet. This is a good SI joint reset. There was a great article this week on SI joint reset. It was through Hugger Mugger. It's on their website, but working this pose for SI joint. So this is interesting. So what I want you to emphasize, especially if your legs are more vertical with the sand, is really flexing the feet. And the knees are going to feel like they pull a little bit closer together. It's okay. It doesn't have to be, but if they do feel like they're moving inwards, don't get too worked up about it. Just let them be. And then you can center anything else on your torso. If you have an eye pillow, place it across the eyes. Make sure your blanket is not under your shoulders at all. And if this is too much lift on your neck, then you can make the blanket lower. And feel the contour. So you want to make sure you're not creating more of a rounded neck, period. You doesn't mean you can't roll the blanket under your contour of your neck. I just don't want you to be doing this. You know, that kind of thing. Okay. So you can move your finger pads at the jaws, pull that back, pull the jaws back. This is where they go all day long, right? Let them rest back. And then opening out. So interesting about feeling the circulation in the mouth. So there's quite a few cues in Iyengar Yoga about relaxing the mouth and the teeth and the palate. So I think just feeling your head relaxing back and relaxing your throat. and breathing through the nose. You know, your mouth might have to push a little bit together when you're breathing in through your nose. Like you can feel that it doesn't drop open. So it's really curious about how we use all these parts on the top of our body and cause gripping like in our neck and so forth. So see what you can do to relax back. Just be curious. It's taking a few moments to absorb the practice and really receive the benefits kind of going forward. Post class is where it integrates, right? The circulation has shifted in some areas. The breathing and the nourishment. Feel the movement of the abdominals. Soften the belly. And now feel where the weight of the pelvis presses into the bolster. You want to feel that pelvis pressing. And then as lifted as you can be in your feet, like there's no weight on them, right? You can keep pushing. So feel the feet lifting towards the ceiling. It's an interesting challenge for the lower abdominals, kind of latching in this one. So when you shift your feet from the wall, you don't have to have the legs straight, but it's ideal. But some of us will need to bend the knees just so our lower back is okay. You know, bending knees is nice for the lower back. We know this from being on our back and clutching our knees in. So move the legs away from the wall. Take a moment of inner balance there. Yeah, the leg bones are ripening here, right? So keep that reach with the feet. It's kind of a sensitivity in the bones. If you have a blanket on your core, you could leave it so you get a like good massage right into the digestive tract, or you could just slide it off. But bend through the knees, and when you bring the knees in, it's like so easy. I can get my sand, so I can either drop it overhead or put it off to the side. And I'm going to roll a bit side to side on the back of the pelvi. Feel that movement. And then really swing the knees over to one side. Feel my upper body swing over. And then roll into a pile and come on up. Okay, be part of my bolster for a moment. So let's sit on top of the bolster, push it against the wall. And when you lift up your hips up onto the bolster, and then up from there goes the ribs and the heart, nestle the hands together in front of your heart center. Feel where they have the even pressure at the thumb stretching. Fingers are pointing up. And on the inhalation, breathing in wellness into the body. And exhale, bowing into the space behind your heart. In gratitude,